Welcome to the July 6th budget meeting for 2018. Melissa, we'll let you go with it.
Can I say one thing before you
Sure.
start? I want to thank you for being at the opening ceremonies on 4th of July and leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I appreciate you doing that. And everybody from Public Works and everybody else that's here today that helped, they helped make a whole lot of people happy, and I just want to say thank you.
It was really fun, and Commissioner Commander did a great job as always. So, and I waited, when it was over an hour in traffic, but there was so many people, and it was a family atmosphere, and it was great. Okay, with that, now budget. Thank you.
Good morning. Just to briefly go over what we need to accomplish today. Today starts our budget process, going through to getting an adopted budget in September, and we need to request the board to set a proposed millage that we'll work off of. And after today, I wanted to remind everyone that the proposed millage that's set, it can go down, but it cannot go up after today. I will not go over all the budget details because I've met with you each individually, so I'll just kind of hit the high spots. That way we can go ahead and get into the discussion of any changes you might like to make. We've made the proposed budget assuming no increase in the countywide millage rate of 6.6363 mills and no change in the North Walton mosquito control rate of 0.4912 mills. And once you set that proposed millage rate, that is what will go out on the trim notices. The proposed budget includes a 3% cost of living raise. Just for discussion purposes, we can structure that differently depending on the board's wishes, but we use that 3% just as a starting point to put something in there to move forward with discussions. The Sheriff's Office has been budgeted to receive 1.9482 mills for operations. We did the same thing with fire rescue that we've done with the sheriff. We took the 2017 budget and determined what millage they would have received, what's the equivalent, and that was 0.5454 mills. So we just took that amount and applied that to the 2018 budget. And what we ended up with, it was less than what was requested, but it is an almost $4.2 million increase for operations and fire rescue. The clerk's office requested an increase of 14% for additional positions and additional costs related to Microsoft licensing fees. So we did the equivalent allocation to the clerk's office, proposing an increase of just over 10% to correspond to the increase in property values and providing an increase of over $357,000 to their budget. For the county departments, what we tried to do was just hold the line on discretionary spending. We had some things that had to go up. We've got utility costs that are increasing. Things that we did increase. We're continuing to rotate out old equipment and vehicles. Those expenses seem to kind of be leveling out where we're on a good rotation, where we're not seeing as much of an increase in those expenses from year to year. We kept the TIF funding right at $4 million for the South Walton TIF, and looking at the incremental value for 331, that TIF amount we have left at $9,408, and that's the amount that corresponds with 100% of their incremental increase. So if those funding amounts are okay with the board, we will follow up on the 25th with a resolution keeping those in the budget. And just to roll through a few of the notable items on here, we've ended up with a total proposed budget of $150,132,627. We've included $100,000 to continue coastal dune lake monitoring and management, $250,000 to continue document scanning, and we do anticipate that after this year that'll level off and start to decrease some as they get caught up with the scanning. We included $500,000 for Legion Park seawall. That is an item that we have budgeted out of reserves, and we're going to move forward with seeing if we can pursue NERDA funding for that project, but we do know that's coming up, so that's why that's been included. We have added $163,776 to the Public Works budget for multi-use path maintenance in South Walton. When we look at personnel, we're seeing a net change of 26.5 FTEs. The large numbers you see with the county and the constitutional officers are due to the 99 positions that transferred over to the sheriff. Overall, down at the bottom, you'll see the summary. There's 11 additional positions for the sheriff's office, and that's the deputies and the fire rescue positions that they've already added this year. Any additional firefighters, we don't have that number of what they'll end up with, but I'll keep in contact with them to see if we can get that number by the time we get to the end of this year, by the time we get to the budget hearings, to see what they plan on adding for next year. The clerk is requesting 2 internal auditors and 1 clerk to the board. The admin FTE is the one that's already been approved to do the beach vehicle permits, and there was an offset, and that we'll be retaining the fees that were retained by the clerk's office for those permits. The extension office wants to change their current secretary position from part-time to full-time. We've increased facilities maintenance by 2 maintenance workers. They had requested a construction crew, but the budget really could not support that, so we limited them to 2 maintenance workers. The landfill, they have been using contract labor and are at the point with the increasing workload that they've got out there that we allocated them 2 additional landfill workers. The TDC, most of their positions had already been approved. The new ones going into next year are 1 shop foreman and 2 beach specialists. But since this catches us up from last fiscal year to this fiscal year, the ones that were approved earlier in this year are included in that number 7. Other than the clerk of courts and the sheriff, there really were no significant changes in the other constitutional officers. We just estimated the tax collector. They're a fee office, so we know that theirs should increase, but their budget's not due until August 1st. We go ahead and just project it so we have something in there, but we'll true that up by the time we get to the budget hearing. And then you have the detail for all the county departments, the statutory required contributions. The discretionary contributions we've left the same. We've gotten some additional requests on this slide. You can see at the bottom, those are the additional requests that we have not included in the funding recommendation. We've just held those at the same amount for right now. And in public safety, you'll see those 99 positions in North Walton Fire Rescue that have gone to the sheriff. And since we've already gone over the details, I won't rehash all of the departmental detail with you unless there is something that you specifically want to discuss. When we get to the revenue summary, you'll see at the bottom the amount budgeted from reserves has decreased quite a bit. That's pretty much the TDC. They had budgeted reserves last year. This year, they're not budgeting from reserves. They're just budgeting to spend the revenues they anticipate to collect. We have rolled $16 million into the budget for property purchases. Whatever's not spent out of that by the end of the year will be rolled forward into next year. And to wrap up, I did a slide on the proposed ad valorem allocation percentages just to show you kind of where we're at. If you take the ad valorem that we anticipate receiving and allocate that to the sheriff, the constitutional offices, the TIF, and the public works, the functions they have that are not funded by gas taxes, that's pretty much all of the ad valorem. So if you use that allocation, that would mean that all the court support, the state mandates, and all the board general fund departments are funded from other general revenue sources, just to show you where we're at. And in our ad valorem revenue history, where our taxable value is up about $1.5 billion, so we're still seeing good increases. It's a 10.2% increase over last year, so we're still seeing growth. It's primarily in the South End, and it's let us get back to where, if you'll notice, we're back where we were before the recession. The only thing that I see that has caught up with us is cost of increase. The utilities have increased. The cost of operations has simply increased, and we have not picked up to the point that we've overcome that. So if y'all would like to go ahead and get into any discussion on any of these items?
Do we have
Move
questions?
Yes, I do. What about the health insurance? We have a significant increase or not?
We have no increase at all on the health insurance. I should have
Commissioner-
mentioned that. That was significant.
That is a big deal.
Yes.
I mean, because those numbers can go out of sight real quick and can absorb any increase you think you may find somewhere else. So tip of the hat to those on our insurance committee and those that have been working diligently with our consultants and with our provider to keep those numbers as low as possible. But to move forward in a year with no increase, that's important.
Any other questions? Do we have comments from the audience? Anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the budget?
As always, I think Melissa and our staff have done an outstanding job. They know the importance of providing services, but, not passing on, taxes, so my hat's off to them.
Melissa, at this time, do you need the board to give you some direction concerning the COLAs and how we want to maybe apply them, at least on our side of the fence?
Yes, sir. That would be very helpful. We can work within whatever structure the board would like.
Okay, so I think historically we've been, if it's 60K or higher, it was 2%, and then if it was below 60, 3%.
Yes, sir.
And I know we were trying to narrow that gap between the upper and the lower payers, or payees. So are we getting that closure of that gap?
We're seeing that some. If the board wishes to stagger the COLA again, that's probably still a good spot to stagger it. But we are seeing some. We're seeing some catch up from the ones that are under the $60,000.
Okay. Well, unless the board's got some other thing that they might want to consider, I think maybe we ought to at least leave it at that so you can work the numbers and all that for the budget. That's just my suggestion.
One thing I'd like to see if you could find some money somewhere for the scenic corridor. They're really trying to spruce up South Walden 98, and I think it would. They're working on the gateways. They can't start on the west end until they finish the paving down there. But if you could look into that.
Yes, sir. We'll look into that.
Okay.
And I know they asked for a big amount, and I think they would be happy to get phase one or just something to keep the project moving. It really does make a difference. If you've been down to South Walden lately, across the bridge, those trees going in, it's going to be awesome. So any other comments, questions?
I'm good.
Okay. We need a motion to,
I make a motion to set the millage rate at 6.6363 mils.
6.3?
Isn't that what?
It's 3.63.
3.6363
Sydney, or this,
and
My God.
and .4912 for North Walton mosquito control.
all right, this is a workshop. Do we,
But
Do
no,
it.
I think today we do need a motion on the millage rate, right, Melissa?
there would seem to be some confusion up here, so, okay, thank you. All right, we have a motion? Do we have a second?
I second.
Motion second. Any other discussion?
And just to clarify, this is for the 3.6363 countywide and .4912 for North Walton mosquito control.
Absolutely. Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Is there any other business we need to attend to?
And if the board is amenable to the TIF amounts as discussed, I will move forward with a resolution for those.
You need a motion?
I don't need a motion for that. We'll handle that in a resolution. And finally, we need to set the budget hearings. I received the school board's dates yesterday. Theirs have been approved. So we are requesting to set the hearing dates for the budget for September 11th and September 25th. And that will allow the property appraiser to go ahead and move forward with the trim notices.
You need a motion?
Question. Where will these take place at?
The September 11th would be in South Walton, and the September 25th would be in North Walton, and they are both at 5:01 in the afternoon.
Okay. Okay, do I have a motion that we set these two dates?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion? Discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Thank you. Okay, seeing if there's nothing else, then we are adjourned.